This VA to the stars can help you go far. Hello and welcome, my friends, to the 174th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, and I am back. Good grief. I thought I would get a bunch of stuff done over the Christmas break, and I did, just not on my podcasts. I am now on the tail end of moving my 9-year-old website, but 7 years at least on WordPress. Golly, hundreds of pages, several, almost 800 blog posts. It has been an ordeal. I have moved off of WordPress onto HubSpot. In September of 2014, I actually bought HubSpot and began going through their partner certification process. And I had some second thoughts and kind of wavered here and there, dragged my feet because I was so embedded with WordPress and with Infusionsoft. But the timing has finally been right. You know, I'm not a smart man, but I do eventually learn after you hit me in the head enough times. And so I will, in future episodes, talk about this as the transition is made and fully completed. It's fully completed, but I'm optimizing some things, tweaking some things. So I won't dive into it yet until we get all the 404s corrected and the redirects, but it is fast. It is smooth. The reporting is great. The support is great. And I'm going to talk as well about why it is less expensive to make that switch than you think. There are a lot of hidden costs that were beating me up, both literal costs and opportunity costs, not to mention motivation and inspirational costs, or demotivational costs, I should say, that I was experiencing for quite some time from the different teams I had that were supposed to be supporting me, but in reality were not. I'm also in the middle and near the tail end of moving 7+ years of Infusionsoft contacts, campaigns, follow-up sequences into HubSpot. And that's a bit more intricate. And so I'm not quite as far along, but I'm pretty far along. But doing things with a shopping cart and membership sites, it makes it a little bit trickier. And again, I'll be blogging about that, making videos about it, talking about why I'm making that change, and going a lot more in depth on where platforms are right for you, such as Nimble. I've got John Ferrara coming up. He's going to be in a few episodes from now, but he's actually a repeat guest. He's doing some great stuff with Nimble CRM, and you may remember from a previous episode, John is the founder of Goldmine, so he knows what he's talking about going back decades on CRMs. But you know, I'm working with Nimble. I'm working with ActiveCampaign. I was certified in Entreport back in 2014 as well. So there's a lot of good tools out there in the marketplace that you need to be aware of. And if I'm going to do my job and be consistent and transparent, I need to find the best tools, dig into them, and help you learn them and make an informed decision. So that's what I'll be doing a lot of moving forward. But I am weeks overdue in getting several podcasts out, including this great one with Miss Trivinia Barber. The one and only Trivinia Barber. All the way from Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How are you?
Wes, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I am sure glad I asked for the pronunciation of your name just before we turn this thing on. So you are the owner of Priority VA and the mother of 4 kids. But other than that, what should our listeners know about you before we dive into the rabbit hole?
Well, I am really blessed to together with my husband, Chris, own, obviously, Priority VA, and where we help overwhelmed and overloaded entrepreneurs and business owners understand how they can delegate and outsource and even eliminate tasks so that they can focus on what they do best in their business. And I'm really, really blessed to be able to be the executive assistant to some fairly high-profile peoples. One you guys may know as Amy Porterfield. So I get to work side by side with her and helping her grow her business, and all the while growing mine. So it's great.
Well, even though you work with Amy, I still want to have you on here, you know. Amy's awesome. Yeah, and that's how I ran across you. You were I had a couple of your clients as guests, but I saw your name pop up a couple of times. I'm like, what is this lady up to? I got to pick your brain and see what you're doing because you're working with some big time folks, right?
I am. Our business has really grown over the past couple of years, and we've just had the opportunity to work with some high-profile peoples and, the little people, the big people. We work with clients like Social Media Examiner and Ray Edwards, Nikki Elledge Brown, Todd Herman. We've had a lot of great opportunities to provide services for some talented individuals in this entrepreneurial space.
So let me ask you something. I've got a few questions around, A, growing a business, and B, how do you decide what to delegate? Because, my correspondence has been with you, right? Not with your own assistant. So how, so it's a couple questions there. How do you grow? And then how do you know how much to keep your finger on the pulse and do it yourself versus outsource your own stuff?
Yeah, so I love this sort of line that I get to straddle, being a virtual assistant and then also being an entrepreneur and a business owner myself. So I really get the best of both worlds. I get to look at it from the VA perspective because I am a VA, and then I get to look at it from a business owner perspective of, I feel the same sense of overwhelm that a lot of my clients feel. And so I have to fight through those things too of what do I delegate and what do I keep? And for me, I like to delegate the small things. The assistant that most people come into contact with for me, her name is Kim, and she handles a lot of just my personal life. She makes sure I had melanoma a couple of years ago, so she makes sure that I get into my dermatologist, and I'm going on class field trips with my kids, or even stuff like making sure that I see my friends, because I definitely tend to be more on the workaholic side, and I could sit in this office all day and feel no pain about it. And so she makes sure that I get and do things that I really should be doing. So I tend to keep more of the business things that are come up in my business, like scheduling and things like that. I tend to do a lot of that still myself. And as we grow, I'm sure that will continue to be delegated to her a little bit more frequently. But for me, I really tend to, some of the stuff that I find when I'm talking to my clients is that if you learn to delegate the small things, when we need to start to delegate the bigger things, it's easier to let go. I oftentimes say that I have to pry tasks out of my clients like dead cold hands, because they just won't let go of things. And so I think if we start small with delegating something like, scheduling a podcast interview or, booking a hair appointment or things like that, when it gets to delegating something big, like say planning a trip for your entire family, which my assistant Kim has done for me before, it was easier to let those things go. So it's hard to delegate. I remember the first time I had to give credit card information to my assistant, I had that feeling of, what if she's a criminal? Like, what if the background check didn't work? What if she, steals my identity? And really, I just had to bite the bullet and say at some point, you got to turn over the keys to the car. And so she has a lot of our personal information and really takes great care of making sure that I do what I'm supposed to do.
So do you use tools like LastPass or 1Password, things like that to store information?
I do. And a lot of my clients have varying degrees of comfort with things like that. I have some that we have had to force out of creating or keeping their Excel spreadsheet or their Google document with all of their usernames and passwords. We've had to guide them and coach them along that process. LastPass is by far my favorite. That's the one that I use personally, but a lot of our clients use 1Password as well, or Dashlane is another very popular one that people use. But we definitely, security is really important. Even for all of us, we vet and we do background checks and make sure all of our team is on the up and up. But I just think there's business smarts in making sure that you have an extra layer in between you and whoever is going to have access to your information. Yeah.
And for those of you listening, if you're not familiar with these types of tools, like I have both. I have 1Password and LastPass, and 1Password I find is a little more elegant on a Mac, and I love it on my iPhone. But and they're just now coming out with the team tool. But I've had LastPass. I had that longer because you can create all of your profiles, all of your passwords, and you can create like super hard passwords. They recommend 18 characters to truly be quote unquote unbreakable, even though everything's breakable. But I use all the crazy characters and everything. But you can just add a site like Facebook or your credit card, whatever. You can put that in a specific folder and give your staff access. but they can't see the password. They can't see that information. So when and if they leave or you have to fire them, you just remove them from that and you don't have to change any of your passwords. And I learned that the hard way. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry that you had to learn it that way, but it's definitely a level of barrier that I think is really important for people to take seriously. You know, I don't know if a lot of your audience would be familiar with Chalene Johnson, but, you know, really high profile person on Instagram, and she had her account hacked, and, you know, people were literally controlling her computer as she sat there and watched and could do nothing about it. So it's really important to take that stuff very seriously.
Yeah. And not only does it help with staff, I mean, just for security. I mean, it's just, I love having passwords that I don't know.
Except when I'm on the fly and I need a password for something and I can't remember the 19 characters and, you know, uppercase and lowercase.
See it. Yeah, you can pull it up. Usually honestly, I don't know when I've ever had to type it out. I mean, somehow or another you can copy it and paste it. But just for there's so much bad stuff out there now. And, you know, the days of having password as your password, are long gone. I mean, there's too many bad guys out there. So walk me through, though, how you grew, first of all, and how did you come to work? I mean, you're kind of like the, I wouldn't say the Donald Trump because some people may not like him. You're like the Cadillac of VAs right now, would you say?
I do have... yes, I have really been blessed. I want to be humble, but there's just a certain point where, yes, sir. But I have really been blessed to work with just a lot of great people. And I started working as an executive assistant in corporate, you know, and I did that for 12 years and really learned a thing or five about leading and helping people. And that was really my heart, was to help people. And when we decided to grow our family via adoption and brought in a little girl that just had a lot of therapy needs, it became really clear that I needed to stop having the corporate days. I had always worked a flexible schedule for the past 13 years. I have always worked in a virtual capacity. So I, worked 2 days in an office and 2 days at home and then had 1 day free. And when we adopted our daughter, it just became clear that even that wasn't enough. I had to be available for her. And so that's when I really became full-time virtual assistant. And then the company that I worked for got bought out by a larger national organization, and they just weren't into the virtual thing. They said, come back full time. I said, oh, sorry, not doing that. I've worked in sweats for, 9 or 10 years now. I'm not going back to that. And so I became a virtual assistant, working with other clients, and got bought out by out of some contracts from some of those clients. Ended up meeting Amy, and people just still wanted my services, and they wanted me specifically to work with them. And obviously the entrepreneurial brain kicked in, and I really realized that I couldn't take on any more work, because then it was kind of counterproductive to me wanting to be home with my kids and be available for them. But I could help find someone to work with them, and I could help train them, and I could help make sure that they shared my same values and ethics when it came to serving. And so Priority VA was born officially 2.5 years ago, unofficially 3.5 years ago. And it was funny because we did everything underneath just Trivinia Barber. And then about a year into it, we thought, oh my gosh, we need to get a business name for this. Like, this is real. And so that's when Priority VA came aboard. And we've just been growing at this rapid pace ever since. And again, I mean, it's all flanked by a heart of service and just really working hard and doing what we say we'll do. And that's attracted a lot of great people to join our team, both from the VA side and from the client side as well. We've got a great team of people working with us now.
So what type of services can somebody come to Priority VA for? Is it just admin type stuff, or can they hire like a technical person to manage their WordPress website?
All of the above. The one thing that I don't do is web development. So I don't do, building out of websites, but we do maintenance and, just small WordPress updates. And so I see the gamut, really. I see a lot of just general administrative stuff. So you want someone to handle your travel and your calendar and your email management, and then all the way up to really pretty tech savvy stuff. We are an Infusionsoft certified partner, so we get a lot of Infusionsoft clients, people needing funnels built out and things like that. Or we get a lot of people who are trying to really find their place in this online space, and they're trying to figure out how to grow an email list and how to get, more visitors to their website, more opt-ins. And so we do a lot of funnel building, opt-ins, lead magnets, email autoresponder series setup. We even do webinar support. We do a lot here, and it really just varies depending on the funnel. I mean, we have a lot of different funnels feeding into our business at this point.
How do you price your services? I mean, can you share like ballpark? Like if somebody just needs somebody to help with scheduling and doing some emails in the beginning versus doing higher level stuff?
Yeah, so we're pretty standard. We charge, we do have a set minimum of at least 20 hours per month. I don't do anything less than that because I really feel like I want long-term collaborative relationships with clients. I really don't like to dabble too much into the project-based stuff because I think there's just a lot of cheaper ways to get things done than using a service like mine. And so our rates start at $800 a month, and that's for any sort of general admin services, and then they go up from there. And if you're wanting, membership site build out and Infusionsoft things, then obviously the prices go up exponentially from there.
Right. So can somebody just hire you for 20 hours and try it, or is it like a 3-month minimum, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't do minimums because I just feel like I don't want to lock anybody into something. And if they hate working with us, I want them to go find somewhere where they can be happy and feel like they're served really well. Right. I have a 30-day cancellation policy. So technically you're locked in for 60 days with us. And I did that because I really feel like the first month of getting to know anybody, especially when you think about 20 hours in a month is 5 hours a week, right? It's not a lot of time. And so I feel like there has to be enough time for everyone to give it a shot and to really dig in and figure out how you work well together and how you can communicate. And I just don't think that you can do that in such a short amount of time. Sometimes if you know, right? And you like the person or you don't. But more often than not, we're training our clients on how to use a virtual assistant because they don't know. And so that takes time to get them up to speed on how they can learn to delegate and really outsource effectively.
Right. How many, like if you get 100 new clients, how many of them, is this the first time they've had a VA? Is like an 80-20 rule?
Yeah, our ideal client is someone who maybe they haven't had a virtual assistant before, but they know where they're going. So the types of clients that don't generally work the best with us are the type that have never worked with a virtual assistant, don't even really know what a virtual assistant is or what they can do, because those people tend to not understand the value that a VA can bring, so they're not really interested in paying our fees, or they're so overwhelmed right now that they can't even figure out how to work with a virtual assistant, and they just need a task done. They don't want a collaborative environment. So I would say out of 100 clients that actually sign on with us and move forward, it's probably 40% of those are a right fit for us.
Oh, gotcha. So that's something interesting you said there. So somebody that wants a collaborative environment, because when I think of VA, I think of just somebody following orders.
Yeah.
But you're saying y'all get a little bit more of a partnership trying to help them grow versus just being somebody filling out a calendar.
Absolutely, Wes, because I think it's so important that your VA be a sidekick for you, that they're your person and they're your partner in this. And one of the best things that I've had with clients that I've worked for is when I'm the one who's looking down the road for potholes that are coming up in their personal life or in their business or whatever. And it's my job to be the lookout. I'm the scout, and I'm bringing up things to their attention saying, hold on, this is coming up. What about this? And when a virtual assistant is just simply waiting for the next task to be assigned to them in Asana, they don't have the ability to do that. And so collaborative environments are, in my opinion, the best way to have long-term relationships. I think that's just what I've seen in my business. I've seen it in my relationships with my clients. When I'm brought into the fold, it helps me to have a big sort of 360 view of the landscape of where this business is going. So I can use my expertise to sort of divert problems as they come up.
And so I'm looking at your website. And what's up? You don't like men?
I do, actually. Our ideal client is a man.
Just not your ideal VA.
We have several men on our team now. Yeah. When I started this business, I really realized that there are a lot of moms primarily that felt like they had to make a choice. Were they going to work in a corporate environment, or were they going to be home with their kids? And that was this terrifyingly anxiety-inducing problem that they had. We live in a very much a two-income society right now, and all these moms felt like they had to choose. Am I going to pay to keep my kid in daycare, and work to really afford the daycare payment? Or is there a way that I can do both? And I feel like Priority VA gives people an option that they don't have to choose be a mom or use the skills that I would say that God gave them. I feel like Priority VA gives moms a choice. And we've since definitely branched out, and we work with men and millennials and college age kids and things like that. But that's definitely my heart, is to allow VAs specifically the opportunity to contribute to their family or to the world, all while using skills that they have at their disposal. And then on the flip side, I really want to give entrepreneurs a choice, because oftentimes we put ourselves as an entrepreneur on this island, and we feel like we're in this alone, and we've got to do it. We're being martyrs and like hopping on the sword to create everything in our business, and we feel like, as an entrepreneur, we don't have a choice. Like, we have to do it all. And I want to really let them know that they do have a choice, that they can go to their kid's soccer game and their business can grow. They can not say yes to every single client that comes, and their business can still grow. And that's where I think a virtual assistant can help them to see that, because they can, be working on tasks and moving that ball down the field. Well, they're at a soccer game or at, a choir concert for their child. There's so much choice. I think we tend to pigeonhole ourselves and make ourselves feel like we can't, like we have to do this on our own. And it's just not true.
All right. So I want you to dish out some dirt on some of these gurus you work with.
Good luck.
Tell us that they're not all superhuman, and that they actually need help, and you're kind of the secret behind their growth, right? So we can hire you and all grow big like them?
No, that's not true. So I love me some Tim Ferriss, but however, the 4-hour work week is not true for the majority of us. My clients still do work full-time or more than full-time on some occasions. They are still heavily involved in their businesses. They don't hire virtual assistants and then walk away and, be jet setting in the Caribbean or something. While they do definitely have more free time, what I think that we offer to most people is we offer some clarity, and we offer a partnership, and we offer the fact that the ball can continue moving down the field. We can find a target, and we can work together toward meeting that target. But it doesn't mean that the work is over for the entrepreneur. I feel like sometimes I'm the black sheep of the VA world, because I tend to tell people more bluntly how it really is, instead of painting this beautiful picture that, everything's going to be fantastic as soon as you hire a VA. And that's just not true. It takes work. It takes work to, just as if you are bringing on an employee in your office, you've got to train them, and you've got to bring them into your culture. And that means you have to be involved, and at least to work with a Priority VA, it takes work on your part.
All right. Fine.
Sorry.
Lee. How do you keep your people from getting stolen?
Ooh, yeah. Well, it happens sometimes. I have buyout clauses in my contract that helps to protect me from that, and at least compensate me for when that does happen. But one of the biggest things that I want is I want to create really kick butt matches. I want to create an environment for a client and a virtual assistant where they just know that they are supporting one another, where the VA is having opportunities to grow and learn and expand their skills, and the client feels so supportive. And if that means that they need to go work with each other directly, then I've done my job. I've made a kick butt match and all is well. And so I'm not opposed to that. I obviously just, as a business owner, I need to be compensated for that, but it does happen and I'm okay with that.
You're just way too nice.
Well, until you read that contract and you see what the buyout clause is, but no, if my heart is truly to serve, then I can't be taken aback when that happens. And if serving means letting them work together, then that's okay. I just need to make sure, obviously, that all of the T's are crossed and I's are dotted and all that jazz. But yeah, I just want people to feel fulfilled, Wes. And I think that so many of us on this journey, we get stuck and we feel like we can't move forward. And I say oftentimes that so many of my clients, they're just right over the hump. Like they're almost there. And if they had just someone to walk alongside them and help them get there, their businesses can grow. They can't, we often hear about like 10Xing our business and all that stuff. And it is absolutely possible. But more often than not, it's not possible by yourself, and so I just want people to be happy and grow and reach their goals.
So looking at your higher profile clients, what would you say they all have in common?
I think that they have like probably 5 or 6 common habits. I think that they all embody. I would say number one is they delegate the small things. They just don't even do things that they know they shouldn't be doing that are not money drivers in their business. And they don't hold on to those. I think that second thing they probably do is they find, all of them, I can say, they have a coach or a mentor of some sort. Either that's a paid coach or it's just someone privately that they bounce ideas off of. Because I think, again, it's just that whole feeling of getting feedback. I think they definitely give more than they take. So whether that's in their communities, I know John Lee Dumas he is a giver. He and Kate, they give and give and give of their time and their expertise like constantly. And then they ask for the sale, right? And I think so many of my clients do that really, really well. And then hyper focus, I think, is probably the most important thing, is that whether it's implementing a program like Todd Herman's 90-Day Year or reading Essentialism or The One Thing or, any of those books that tell us that we really need to focus on one thing, that they do that. They pick their goal and then everything else gets blocked out and they just really focus on that thing. And
what did you say?
I'm sorry?
I wasn't listening. I'm sorry. What? No. That was bad. All right, keep going. So that 1, 2, that's 4.
Yeah. And then I think that number 5, this is something that Amy does incredibly well, is she shares her goals with her team. So I'm a whiteboard fanatic. I have a wall of whiteboards in my office. And as soon as I walk in here, I see Amy's goals. I see what we're working toward. And that motivates me. So it helps me understand we're in the middle of a launch and maybe I've got late night webinars or early morning customer service things I have to handle. It helps me stay focused on what our end game is. So I think sharing your goals with your team is really important, even if they're small goals, to make sure that your team is in the loop and you're not keeping them in the dark of what they're working toward. And then probably the 6th thing is sleep. I know it sounds silly, but my most high-performing clients that get the most done and I think have gone the farthest in their business, they prioritize their personal lives, right? They prioritize sleep and exercise and, time with their family. And they plan their day the night before. So before they go to bed, they know what they're going to focus on for the next day. Those things I think just really make for a successful business owner. And I've tried to implement so many of those things in my own business. And I've seen more than anything in 2015, I've seen my business, we've doubled our revenue in 2015, and I've implemented almost all of those. The sleep thing is the hardest thing for me. I don't sleep a lot, and I think if I can tweak that and get that done, I think I'll be well on my way to even more revenues and increased energy for my business too.
Right. Well, how do you track your time? I know like attorneys would say if they're looking at their whiteboard and thinking of their client, they're billing them.
Yeah.
How can you keep track of all that? If you're juggling multiple high-performing clients, that seems like a monumental task in and of itself.
Yeah, it is. I think that just like we want our clients to do is we want our clients to block their time and focus on, if they're checking email, they're checking email for 1 hour and they're not distracted by Facebook or phone calls or anything like that. The same is true for VAs and how they prioritize their work. So I might work for Amy from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10:30 in the morning. And that's my Amy time. And then I can go to something else, for 2 hours and back to Amy and really avoid context switching. I think that that's so important. We use tools like Toggle or Slim Timer is another great app that we use to track time. We just recently, for Priority VA, switched to Teamwork. And that's the app that we use because anytime you're working on a specific task, you can turn on a timer and it will start to log your time. And that's great because obviously the clients can log in and they can see what you're spending your time on too. So you have to be disciplined to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had mentioned Asana. Why do you like that as a project management tool?
Yeah. I was really probably the last person on Amy's team to come alongside and say, okay, fine, I'll use Asana. I did not like the layout of it at all. Now I'm addicted to it and I like it. I like Asana for obviously just the transparency of what everyone's working on and just the collaboration that can happen as our team has grown. We have more people who need to give their input and things into projects that are going on. And so Asana has definitely helped us sort of keep things moving and keep everyone accountable for what they're working on. In Priority VA, we use Teamwork for that.
Oh, okay. And would you say is it ultimately just a preference, pick one and stick with it?
Absolutely. Why we ended up moving to Teamwork from Asana was I liked the time management opportunity, that it tracks time. That was our biggest thing. Otherwise, I probably would have stuck with Asana, even though I was the last to jump on board there. I used Trello for a really long time, which I love. I'm just much more of a visual person, and I like the idea of moving things down the board. If any of you don't use Trello, it's just much more of a visual task management software, project management software, whereas Asana is more linear. And so, I think any software that's the thing that your listeners need to know is I don't care what you use, pick something and be consistent with it. If it's Basecamp or if it's Trello or if it's, a Google spreadsheet, if that's what you need, just do it and be consistent and use it every day.
Yeah. That's what I see everybody dabbling, and hopping from one thing to another. And, I do a lot of work, obviously, with Infusionsoft, but doing a lot more with other programs like Entreport and HubSpot. And I tell people, at the end of the day, just pick one and grow with it,
I think that we can get caught up in that shiny object syndrome, and that's part of the curse of being an entrepreneur is we see the next new shiny thing. We see HipChat, and then we see Slack, and we want that too. And that's fine to try it, but I think that more often than not, we're just distracting ourselves from actually getting work done when we're just always trying the next new shiny object.
Yeah, I think it's like a subconscious self-sabotage, huh?
Definitely. Another great thing for your audience to use if they find themselves doing that frequently is use something called rescue time. I put it on my computer because as a virtual assistant, I have to spend a lot of time on Facebook and monitoring Facebook groups and things that my clients are a part of and engaging. And of course, it's a great networking tool. But I had to put a time limit on Facebook. And so I really block my time and I'm in the groups that I'm a part of and managing and advocating for a set period of time every day. And rescue time helps keep me accountable for that. And it shows me how much time I'm spending in email and in calendaring and on certain websites and apps. And so that could be a good way to start to see, am I being productive? Am I really doing as much as I say I'm doing? And I love getting that little report. And when it says, I was like 92% productive this week, it makes me really happy. I like to sort of beat my own goal from last week.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I use that as well. I heard John talking about it, Johnny Dumas.
Yeah.
And it's tough holding yourself accountable because really that's what you're doing. And it's brutal in the beginning. Like, oh, wow, I was kind of a bum.
Yeah. Well, and that's also where a VA can step in too. You know, if you are sharing your goals with your team and you're telling them that this is what I want to be working on this week, well, that's a really easy fix to have your VA. If you give them permission, again, there's ownership on your part too. But if you give them permission to check in with you on, Tuesday at noon and say, hey, these are the goals that you said you wanted to meet by Tuesday. How are you coming on those? It is something when, somebody's going to be bugging you about it.
Yeah. All right. Very nice. So we're coming up to the end here. What would you say is one parting word of wisdom, a little nugget you'd want our listeners to apply or take away from this interview?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I want your audience to take away is that whether it's outsourcing to someone like Fiverr or Upwork or a VA firm like mine, or just finding a virtual assistant on Craigslist, I guess, if you needed to, do something and start to work toward delegation and learning what you should be delegating or could be delegating in your business to move it forward. And take nothing more away from this podcast than don't do it alone. You don't have to be on an island doing this all by yourself, and that there is help, and that there are people who are amazing at the things that you're not, and they want to help you, and they want to help you be successful.
Yeah. All right. Very nice, Miss Trivinia. Trivinia, right?
Oh, dear. Yes, it's Trivinia.
Got it. Trivinia Barber, PriorityVA.com, and it's also, you can find you on Twitter, right? We had, actually we had a little fun Facebook exchange, but I won't share that information. We'll let Steve come on and talk about that. But since you behaved yourself, I didn't bring that up.
Well, thank you, sir.
And we'll mention that when you're not on this one, so you can't stop me. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. The Sales Podcast has been fantastic.
Well, thanks, Wes. I appreciate you having me. Have a great day.
All right. You too.
Don't you just love her transparency and honesty? She talked about her own overwhelm, and does she need to hire her own VA? And, she does. We all need help. And that's what makes her services and her story so fantastic. And like I said, I met Trivinia virtually, and I haven't met her in person yet, but interacted with her several times with Michael Hyatt, Amy Porterfield. And I was like, who is this lady? But she is as nice and honest and transparent as can be. So I loved her story. So be sure to check out the notes and link to her site at thesaleswhisperer.com/session 174. You can check out her Priority VA services. I've also got a link there to my little known offering I've had for years called FilipinoTechSupport.com. I've had a virtual assistant since over in the Philippines since I don't even know when, 2011 maybe. And Anna, and she's a mom, a wife, her husband, and then they run a little Christian ministry as well. And I've worked with her for many years, but we help you find and hire your very own full-time virtual assistant in the Philippines. So, different services than what Trivinia would be doing, but, could be a great asset for you as well. I mean, I have a local VA as well as a virtual. You can never have too much good help, but that's the key, good help. And Trivinia helps make sure they are good. As always, thanks for listening. Please be sure to share this, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember to sell different.